All right, today, starting off with Baroque music. So we're just going to go through a lot of vocabulary of things in music that are new to the Baroque style. So first we have counterpoint, which is a type of compositional technique in which two melodies combine to create the harmony instead of one harmony with chords to accompany it. So this is new to the Baroque. Improvisation, the spontaneous performance of music without previous preparation of any written notes. This is new. Before this, people always composed beforehand. The fugue is a form of composition in which a theme or subject is introduced by one voice and then is imitated by other voices in succession. Usually, only the first few notes of the subject are imitated exactly, and then each voice deviates slightly until it enters again. The voices overlap and weave in and out of each other in a tapestry-like structure. Figured bass is the bass part, generally of a Baroque composition, that is marked so as to indicate the harmonies that should go with each note. So we have down here the bass. The bottom staff shows the figured bass. The grand staff above shows what the musician could play. Ornamentation. So just like in the architecture and the sculpture, ornamentation is also in the music. Decorative notes of short duration added to compositions to emphasize certain notes and to add flavor to the composition. It's particularly prominent in the Baroque, but is not limited to specific instruments. Genre. It originated in the 16th century during the Renaissance, but developed to its peak during the Baroque. Oratorio is a large-scale dramatic composition with text, so there's words, usually based on religious subjects. These are performed by choruses and solo voices with an instrumental accompaniment and are similar to operas, but they don't have the theater aspect, the costumes, scenery. An opera is a combination of all types of art. So we have music, drama, scenery, costumes, dance, all put together to create a complete art form. It's usually it's a drama set to music with singing throughout, started in 17th century Italy. An aria is a song meant for a soloist and an orchestra. Recitative, sung conversation between characters, back and forth to advance a storyline. Concerto is a composition for one or more principal instruments with orchestral accompaniment. Now it's usually in symphonic form, a symphony. We're going to talk about three main composers of the Baroque period. We have Handel, Bach, and Vivaldi. So Handel, George Frederick Handel, 1685 to 1759. He was born in Halle, Germany. His father wanted him to be a lawyer, so he was forbidden from having an instrument at home. But when he was 7, he and his dad went to Weissenfels, where he played the chapel organ. His playing was so impressive that the Duke insisted that he be allowed to study music, so his father gave in. He soon became known as a virtuoso on the organ, meaning he was real good at it. By the time he was 11, he could play the harpsichord, the oboe, the organ, and the violin. He has composed 6 sonatas, and he was the assistant organist at Hall Cathedral. He began writing oratorios when he was 53, so late in his career. However, he became the greatest oratorio composer ever. So still to this day, his oratorios are considered the best of their kind. His most famous work is called Messiah, which is an oratorio covering all of Jesus' life and death and resurrection. We're going to listen to the Hallelujah chorus. You have probably heard it before. Just listen for a bit. You'll recognize it.
So I guess your girl is a fan now. Daily Harvest literally does all the work for you. With my busy and
All right, so that is part of the Messiah chorus. It's called the Messiah Hallelujah chorus. Messiah has a section for just an orchestra, a section for soloists, and then a section for the choir. Traditionally, the audience stands during that Hallelujah chorus that we just listened to. All right, second composer, we have Johann Sebastian Bach from 1685 to 1750. He was German. His family was part of the church. His major appointments, meaning his jobs that he was paid for, were as the court organist of Weimar, the chapel master to Prince of Anhalt, and the church cantor, which means the official church singer. He liked to drink, laugh, and he wrote lots of folk songs in his free time. His death in 1750 marks the official end of the Baroque period of music. His famous piece that we're going to listen to is called Toccata and Fugue in D minor. It was written for the organ and composed between 1703 and 1707. It's one of his most famous works it's one of the most famous works in the organ repertoire and is still used in films, TV shows, and video games today. So you might also recognize this song. So you've probably recognized that, or at least get a sense that it is in horror movies, right? When I hear it, I just think Dracula. Our last composer of the Baroque we're talking about is Antonio Vivaldi, 1678 to 1741. He is the Italian of the group. Born in Venice, he was also an ordained priest. He worked at a girls' orphanage where he developed an orchestra and vocal program that became famous all over Europe, because remember, girls aren't normally allowed to do things at this time. He wrote in many genres, including opera, oratoria, sonata, and masses, but he is most famous for his concertos. He was a virtuoso violinist, and his concertos raised the standards for violin performance. He was the best at it. Everybody else had to up their game after. His most famous concertos are a group collectively called the Four Seasons, so he wrote one concerto for each season. We're going to listen to a segment called Primavera, which is springtime. The Four Seasons is a set of 4 short violin concertos written in 1720. Each season is a 3-movement work lasting about 10 minutes. We're going to listen to a little bit of it after this ad.
Las vacaciones se hicieron para salir de viaje y descansar.
So even if you may not have known the name of that, you might have heard that before. It is also used in quite a few films. So that is it. That's all we're talking about for Baroque music.